Hey everyone, and welcome back to Every Version Ever. Today we're kicking off our yearly coverage of all things Christmas Carol with multiple versions from the Hallmark channel featuring my friends from the Hallmarkies podcast, Rachel Wagner and Kari Olson. Rachel and Kari are joining me to talk about 3 different versions of the story, each with varying levels of faithfulness to the original. 2021's Boyfriends of Christmas Past, 2020's A Nashville Christmas Carol, and then going all the way back to 1998 with Miss Scrooge.
All right, well, let's do this.
Okay. Well, normally when I do one of these with a bunch of Hallmark movies, I either, well, at least for the ones with, like I'm doing Christmas Carol versions, I usually either do them in the order of which I liked them best.
Okay.
Or which was more faithful to the story.
So this will be prosaic one way or another.
I'm kind of mixing it up this time because I want to end with the one that was the most faithful, but I don't think it was my favorite.
Okay.
And
All right.
we'll do the first two first in the order of my most to least favorite.
Sure.
Or least to most favorite. Starting with A Nashville Christmas Carol, which is probably my least favorite of this batch, but it wasn't bad. It was fine. But it was just, I was a little bit bored during it. So that's why it's my least favorite, I guess.
Well, we should clarify, I guess, our individual stances on country music. I think that does play into a little bit about your enjoyment of this film.
For me, I'm not a huge country music fan. I used to say that I hated country music, and now it's just whatever. It depends on the artist. Some artists can do country, and they're really good. Like I recently discovered, I think their name is Orville Peck. His voice is amazing.
Oh,
And
fun.
I've heard the name.
It's like I've never really liked country music, but when I see him put out a new video, I watch it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've never been a huge country music fan. I probably still wouldn't say I am. I just have one that I've found that I really like. But other artists have done country music, and I like their stuff. So I'm not opposed to country music. It's just not usually my thing.
Well, I would say my stance on country music is that I like it, and I like it enough to be familiar with it, and I like it enough that A Nashville Christmas Carol was really fun to see all the stars come out and who played what. And, you know, there's Kix Brooks from Brooks and Dunn. We have, you know, Winona Judd, of course, Sarah Evans. And it was just really fun in that sense to showcase them as these just parts of the Christmas Carol that are just kind of a little wacky, a little kooky, some of the ghosts and stuff. And I liked that. So plus Wes Brown and Jesse Schramm, you know, they can sing and they can sing well. And I wish they sang more, but you know that it's a love of theirs. So to have them be around it was fun.
Especially Jessie, because she was on Nashville. I mean, she's a singer. So
was Wes Brown. He's a singer, but I don't know if he's been on, I don't think he's been on something like Nashville, like Jesse, but he definitely is musically gifted.
Yeah. I like country music, and that probably was the strongest part of this movie. The seeing, Kix Brooks and Winona Judd and Sarah Evans, they were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Raylene, she was fun when the duet between Raylene and Sarah Evans was really solid. I have my issues with the film. It is probably my least favorite as well of the 3. There are a couple things I think that are interesting about it from a Hallmark perspective. First, this was heavily impacted by COVID. There was a lot of things that they were planning on doing, crowd scenes, with a full auditorium that they had to change, move it around. Yeah. Things they had to, this I think was if it wasn't, I feel like every single Hallmark actor is like that. We did the first one after COVID. So I'm a little bit, I don't know really which one was actually the first one, but after quarantine, but this was one of the first ones, certainly in the United States. And this was partly filmed, I think, in like South or North Carolina somewhere, and then a little bit in Nashville.
Okay.
But just pretty much almost every scene had to be changed and moved around and everything because of COVID. So that's something I guess to kind of keep in mind that it wasn't exactly the movie that they wanted to make when they started.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think that they do go to, I think, a little bit darker places than they typically go for a Hallmark movie.
They did.
Her kind of abused childhood and the trauma that she experienced. That is something you wouldn't normally see in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Which you think well done for that, or
I think it was pretty well done, and I think you have to be able to sort of divorce yourself from Christmas Carol as a story.
That's pretty easy with this one.
With this one, but as a Hallmark movie, not as a Christmas Carol adaptation, it did go to some kind of darker places that I did appreciate.
Well, you have to give a little allowance because, they need, if you're going to have the main character be the Scrooge and yet you're Hallmark and you need a happily ever after, you're going to play around with that storyline. Anyway, Scrooge doesn't have the romance, like Scrooge loses the romance, and yet they do have the romance at the end, the happily ever after. So there's some things that you do have to allow because of Hallmark. I thought it was good. I really did like this movie. And I love Jessie Schramm too much to believe that she really was a Scrooge.
Well, that's the thing, though. If I was going to criticize this film, is that I've never seen a version of Christmas Carol where people were literally begging to work with Scrooge. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish that they had just not even had it in the title and just have it be some other, Christmas in Nashville or something like that.
Oh, sure.
Because as a huge Christmas Carol fan, it does sort of set up particular expectations. And I mean, her character, everybody worshipped and adored.
Yes. This is the least Scrooge that I've ever seen in any version.
And that's the thing about the Christmas Carol is that, yes, he's supposed to be like a villain, but there's still something in him that makes a desperate plea from these angels, these Christmas past and present and future, to come and save him. You are almost destroying yourself, but you have some redemptive value in you still. You can turn this around. We have to do it. And
that's true. I mean, the redemption didn't require much.
No,
in this one. I mean, really, she was pretty much a nice person who just worked hard.
Yeah, that was my note. It was basically like Scrooge is being saved from being a workaholic,
right,
instead of a terrible person.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. This was a fun enough movie, but I just thought that was funny, very Hallmark, that they would make the Scrooge literally someone people were begging to work for. Please hire me.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of it being called a Nashville Christmas because you can have all the same elements and the same kind of fun Christmassy type of, ghosts come visit you without really making you a Scrooge. But
and Jessie is one of our favorites.
Oh,
she's great. She's been on Hallmarkies podcast 5 times. We love her. So I'm always happy to see a Jessie Schramm movie.
Oh, me too.
Well, one of the things that I usually like to do with these, specifically for the Hallmark versions, is try and figure out which characters are supposed to be which character from the story, which is slightly harder in this one, but you have a few that are obvious. Like Scrooge is Vivian, obviously, because she's the main character. And then I was thinking that Cratchit was probably her sister, maybe Georgia.
The one begging to work for her. Don't send me off to California. Please.
And then I guess the Belle character would be Gavin Chase, who is her boyfriend and childhood friend.
Right.
And then Marley, of course, is Marilyn Jinway, who is Winona Judd.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the name Marilyn
fun.
Jinway that cracked me up. I don't know. It didn't sound very country to me.
No.
Marilyn, she was fun though. I liked her.
I almost feel like Tiny Tim was that new singer on the scene.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, maybe. I was trying to figure out, like, is there any other characters other than the spirits, of course? And I was trying to think, is there a Tiny Tim? No, I didn't. But you're right. I bet that would be the Tiny Tim.
Yeah. The only other version of Christmas Carol that Hallmark has done is it's Christmas Carol. I guess I think maybe they did the one with Tori Spelling too, but anyway, the only major one is Christmas Carol with Carrie Fisher. And in that one, they just made Carrie Fisher everything. She's Marley. She's all the ghosts.
Which was fine because Carrie Fisher's great.
You got Carrie Fisher. You go with it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
Have you ever seen that? It's Christmas Carol.
Well, it's Christmas Carol. It's just one person.
Yeah, right. It's Christmas Carol. Also, in that movie, they have the ultimate. You can tell that she is Scrooge. The actress is Scrooge because she completely disses the bell ringer Santa. She's just like, you're like, oh, we know that this person is evil. in the very first scene of the movie. It's pretty funny.
So funny.
But anyway, yeah, I think that is most of the roles as far as.
The only two other ones are The Spirit of Christmas Past, which was Kix Brooks.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize who he was because, like, I'm not a huge country fan. I looked him up on Wikipedia. I was like, oh, wait, he's the Brooks from Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's in another Hallmark movie called Home by Spring, which is still probably the worst Hallmark movie I've ever seen. Not his fault, but it was absolutely terrible. I kind of joke that it's Hallmark's version of Get Out.
Oh, no.
I've seen that movie, you get that, but it was absolutely terrible. So I was happy to see him in this.
Yeah.
To get redemption.
Little redemption.
In a good Hallmark movie, because that one was unwatchable. It was
oh
really
my
bad.
Gosh, how funny. I think I started that one. I don't think I ever finished it, but now I just might have to.
Yeah, it's epically bad. Epically bad.
Oh my.
And then the last character that is an obvious parallel to A Christmas Carol is Spirit of Christmas Present, which was Kimberly Williams Paisley.
Yes.
And she's apparently married to Brad Paisley.
Right.
I think she's the only person that I know that I'm familiar with, because the rest of them I maybe knew who they were, besides the like Winona Judd. Of course I know who Winona Judd is. But she was the mom on the movie Netflix's Christmas Chronicles, which I did a year or two ago for my podcast. So I knew who she was.
She's also in the first, in both of the Steve Martin Father of the Bride.
Wonderful.
I haven't seen those.
Yes.
I know they're classics, but I've just never seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in a kind of a funny, I don't think it was a Hallmark movie, but it was Lucky 7 is what it was called. I think it might have been
that was fun.
ABC movie or something.
Yeah.
That's a good one with young Patrick Dempsey, and that's a really fun one.
Yeah, and she was in a good mystery series, more of a legal drama on Hallmark with Darrow and Darrow.
Oh, yes.
That one was so good. It should have gotten more entries, unfortunately, but it was really good.
Of course, she just did this another Christmas movie with her sister then this past Christmas season, 2021.
2 movies.
So I don't know if she's just doing Christmas movies or what, but she hasn't really been on the
true, because she's doing all the Christmas movies for Hallmark, and then she did the Christmas Chronicles.
Right.
Well, if you follow her and Brad are very active in a lot of philanthropy, and in Nashville, they have like a whole store that is just for, it's like a food bank, but it's actually like a store, a grocery store that's all just for the needy. It's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very admirable. It's a way to use your fame. Yeah. In a positive way. I love that.
It's called Love at the Core, I guess.
Okay.
And they have it as a food pantry modeled as a grocery store.
I love it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
The store is to help community members become more self-sufficient over time. Our idea is to get people back on their feet on the road to self-sufficiency so they won't need us in a year.
Good.
So they rock. So I think that's probably why maybe she's got a lot on her plate. Just
yes.
Christmas movies are her hobby away from her day job, which is philanthropy.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this movie, it's fun enough. I liked all the country because I'm a country fan. I like Jesse. I like Wes. But it's certainly not a strict adaptation of the novel.
They didn't even have a Ghost of Christmas Future because like after we got through Ghost of Christmas Present, I was like, I mean, she's not even like her life is not going in a terrible direction. So what is the Ghost of Christmas Future even going to do?
That's because death doesn't exist in Hallmark movies except for when they need a widow.
Right.
Or widower.
And they just need a widower.
Yeah. Kill the husband.
That's right.
Funny.
So what was your second favorite? I'm dying to know.
I think my second favorite would be Miss Scrooge, but I want to talk about that one at the end because it is the most faithful.
Sure, yeah.
So my most favorite probably was Boyfriends of Christmas Past, but ironically that was the least faithful to the story.
Oh, totally. At least I would agree with you though.
But I wouldn't even describe this as really that much of an adaptation. It's more of like an homage.
It was like the most flimsiest inspired by.
Yeah. But I think that was by design. I don't think that they were in this one. I don't think that they were really trying to like make it. The further I got into it, the more I realized that was the case. Yeah.
Because this is another one where it's like Scrooge isn't even that unlikable. Like she's less likable than the Scrooge in Nashville Christmas Carol, but she's still likable.
I mean, in a way, it's almost a combination of It's a Wonderful Life and Christmas Carol of the Christmas Past sequence. Because, you know, it's her going back and, you know, looking at her life and all these boys that she's managed to fall in love with her.
The funny thing was when I started this, I was like, wow, this lady, she's has a really bad track record if she has all these dead boyfriends. And then it turns out the ghosts weren't even real. They were just in her imagination. I thought she had a bunch of dead boyfriends that were coming back.
But I mean, there were so many elements of this movie that like, sure, okay, maybe it's not faithful to the Christmas Carol story, but they just kind of took that idea and launched themselves into a whole different type of story. But I really, really loved this one. I thought this was such a fun one from last year's Christmas movie offerings. I mean, it was just last year, wasn't it? It was 2021.
Yeah. And I think it was like a second, wasn't it the second week or first week? It was really early.
It was the first week. It was definitely, because I remember covering it on Hallmarkies. And we thought it was outstanding. Mostly, I mean, there's some real subtle, awesome things that they did with just her being Asian and having her Asian family. And they just, you know, talked about, like, it was such a diverse movie that with our, you know, Prince Charming here being Raymond Adlack, which was just so handsome, so awesome. And they just, you know, nods to her culture and her upbringing were just really seamless. They were just really seamless.
I was so excited to have Paul Soon-Hyun Lee on.
Yes, that was going to be my thing. That's like my favorite thing about the movie, is having him on here.
Because I love him so much in Kim's Convenience. I love that show so much. If y'all haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. It's such a joy.
Yeah.
It's like one of the funniest, happiest shows I've ever seen.
It's really good.
He was such a good dad on this one. I mean, he was so sweet. So I just thought it was super fun. It was totally what I wanted from like a Hallmark Christmas movie. It was not Christmas Carol, but
no.
Really fun.
But yeah, like I said, I fault it less for that because I don't think it's really trying. Like Nashville Christmas Carol was trying to be a version of Christmas Carol. This is just it has some homages to it, I would say.
Yes. Yes.
But
it's a great way.
But last year I felt like a theme of Countdown to Christmas was friend zoning, like friend zoning hard. And
yeah.
And there's no better example than this movie.
Yes.
Poor Nate. Oh my gosh.
For a while, it was like they basically friend zoned each other, and then he kind of changed his mind, but he was still in the friend zone, even though he wanted out.
Like,
it took a little too long for me to have her out of the friend zone or him out of the friend zone. I would have liked to see that a little bit more of that, but I still loved it. Loved it at the end.
If I had some guy who's like bringing me soup and like doing, I mean, come on.
It was like, are you blind at this point? How do you not see this?
Plus he's gorgeous.
The one thing that I did find was really kind of intriguing with the spirit of Christmas. The spirit of the story, A Christmas Carol. Mm-hmm. She's like on the brink of never really understanding herself and never having a good relationship with someone. And so that's kind of where like these spirits come in and say, hey, you can turn this around. You can open your eyes. You can have a different future. And so I was like, okay, I can see that. I can believe
that's why I would say it's more It's a Wonderful Life.
That's true.
In that case, it's an angel coming and helping him.
Yeah, with these ones, I'm not like I said, they're all in her mind, but I don't even know what they were supposed to be because they weren't dead. Because the one guy was just the version of her teenage boyfriend, still a teenager, and she looks him up and he's an adult and married somewhere else.
Yeah.
So she's sort of imagining.
I think it's supposed to be like a dream. She has a dream.
She has a dream. So she has a dream.
Mm-hmm. We also interviewed Ish Morris, who's one of the illusions, one of the boyfriends, and he was really fun to talk to, and he's fun. All of the guys were fun, I think, in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all very handsome.
Yeah,
so that was
very
handsome. And what's nice to get some diversity from Hallmark, which you don't always see. But yeah, I just thought Nate was very dreamy. He was great. And the end kiss in this movie, I thought was excellent.
I think I made a note of that. Let me see. Oh yeah, I wrote, they made Rachel wait a long time for that kiss.
Yeah, they did. But it was worth it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of funny that both this one and Nashville Christmas Carol, basically their main flaw is that they're a workaholic, not that they're an evil boss and a miser.
Right.
But with this one, the point of the ghost is less about not being a workaholic and more about realizing how she's not been a very good girlfriend in the past and how she's pushing people away and how she can just be a better person in that respect rather than
at Christmas time.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, she pushes people away.
Yeah, because she broke up with everybody at Christmas.
Well, that's
kind of terrible that she didn't even realize that she broke up with every one of her boyfriends at Christmas.
That's the thing about Hallmark is that business is usually the villain of almost every movie.
Oh, yes.
That's true. And it wasn't really in this one, was it?
Well, kind of, because
a little bit, but like the main thing was her not being a good partner. Like, and the business thing, it was a little bit villainous in that they sprung this thing on her at the last minute, but it gave her something to work for rather than this is a horrible thing you need to escape. Basically,
the business made her a bad friend. I mean, she was legit a bad friend. I mean, missing his thing, and when she had made a commitment to it, and not even calling to tell him, and so I mean, I do actually think that affected the chemistry a little bit because, first of all, she friend zones him so hard, and then also because she's kind of rude and mean to him. I understand why he's very irritated at the end.
Yeah.
But it didn't ruin the chemistry, but it was a little bit it affected it a little bit, I think. But yeah, she definitely cares more about her job than she does about Nate.
At least the way I interpreted it, I didn't see that it was the job that was the problem. I was seeing that it was the job was more of her excuse, because she already had all these other issues that were affecting things, and the job was just kind of this convenient excuse as to put it off, like, oh, it's not my fault, I got to do this for the job, which is not like that great of an excuse, and the job still was a little bit of an issue, but I don't think that the job was as much of an issue as like the big business coming in to shut down the tiny little toy shop or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Because if she was a Scrooge about anything, she was a Scrooge about love. She wasn't a money, kind of money hoarder or anything really with her job and stuff, but she was a Scrooge about love. And so that's why she loved him so much, but she friend zoned him, like that's why she broke off these engagements and stuff like that with these other guys. Right.
Yeah. I do also think that a little bit of a problem in the movie from a Hallmark fan perspective is that she spends so much of the movie with these other guys that you miss the buildup of their relationship and her spending enough time with him. And so that is kind of a problem.
Right.
But I still overall enjoyed the movie. I thought it was, pretty fresh, pretty clever.
Yeah.
And that ending kiss and Nate was the best.
Just great. Yeah. Yes. Me too.
Yeah. I wasn't really familiar with, other than the dad, of course, Paul Sung-Hyun Lee. I wasn't really familiar with anybody else, I don't think, but I thought it was interesting when I looked it up. The Scrooge character, Lauren Kim, played by Catherine Kim, she was in another movie called Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, which is apparently a similar plot, but not Hallmark.
Nice.
So I might have to add that one to a future Christmas Carol podcast watch, just to see what it's
with
about.
Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
I hate that movie.
Oh no,
it's terrible. I won't join you in that one. But all right, well, we better talk about Miss Scrooge.
Yes, Miss Scrooge is the most faithful one, but I think I like Boyfriends of Christmas Past as a movie better than I liked Miss Scrooge. With this one, you have an actual Scrooge with the name Scrooge. Her name is Ebenita Scrooge, which I thought is kind of interesting. We already had Ebony Scrooge with the Divas Christmas Carol. They seem to like doing plays on the word ebony for Black female Scrooges.
No, it's a play on Ebenezer.
I know, but like they've done it twice, at least twice. But I guess they may have been in production in separate places, so it's probably just a coincidence. I just thought it was kind of interesting that you had Ebenita in this one and then Ebony later on in the Divas Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Have you seen a Divas Christmas Carol, Kari?
No.
It's so good.
It's good.
It's one of the best.
Divas Christmas Carol. I got to write that down.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. I think I did. It was last year a few years ago that Rachel and I covered that one when I wasn't doing a podcast. And then I recycled our review for a different podcast when we did a whole bunch of other Hallmark and Hallmark-esque TV versions. But yeah, A Diva's Christmas Carol is really good. Way better than this one. This one wasn't bad, but A Diva's Christmas Carol was better. But with this one, you have Cicely Tyson as Ebenita Scrooge. And I know her from somewhere, but I don't know where. And I skimmed her IMDb page and I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me other than like bit parts in TV shows. So I don't know why I know her. I know who she is.
You just do.
Yeah.
I mean, she's famous actress. I'm not exactly sure if I could pinpoint anything either that she's done, except that she's famous enough that I know, oh yeah, the name's Cicely Tyson,
Oh yeah, she's a legend. I mean, if you want to see a great movie, her performance in Sounder is absolutely devastating and wonderful. That's the one that I know her the best from, but she's also famous for a movie called Miss Jane, the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. I think she got nominated for an Oscar for that role. But Sounder, And she's in Fried Green Tomatoes.
Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I see. Yeah. Like, so some Tyler Perry movies and stuff. So
I don't know if I've seen at least one of Tyler Perry's Medea movies, but I don't know if it was that one or not. I'm assuming that was a Medea movie.
I've never seen any
Medea movie.
I'm Medea free. I have not seen any Medea movies, but I know they're very popular.
I would say that The Diary of a Mad Black Woman is so fascinating. It's interesting. It's not that slapstick kind of Medea that you may be thinking about. It's a legitimately interesting kind of movie with these characters and the motivations of certain characters. And this Mad Black Woman, I mean, she has reason to be. I mean, anyway, it's a good one. I would recommend that one if you kind of want to watch something of Tyler Perry's that's not like, oh, Big Mama, or whatever. Like that could be a good one.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Sounder is my favorite. So I would highly recommend anybody check that out. It's a very good movie.
Huh. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this one, she's definitely one of the meanest Scrooges I think in almost any version. She is very cold.
Like throwing a family out of their home on Christmas Eve.
Oh. Very cold. Yeah.
She's going to charge them $100 a day for emergency rent. It's brutal.
One thing I noticed immediately about this movie, and I think they obviously done on purpose because of the Scrooge, because of Ebenita and her personality and setting the tone, it was so devoid of any of that typical Hallmark Christmas decorations that we're used to seeing, that it was like nothing. Yeah. Nothing was there. Nobody's doing anything. You have a Santa who's ringing a bell maybe, but someone who pulls out Christmas cookies from under their desk. But it was so sparse and cold. And I was like, okay, they did a good job setting this up.
It probably has to do partly with the time period in which it was made, because my cousin Sarah talks about this all the time. She says that the Hallmark from when she was a kid is so different than the Hallmark of today because they always did more darker, more dramatic stuff in the 90s. And this is 97. So it probably has a lot to do with that. Plus, totally. I don't think that a movie like this would be made by Hallmark today because it's not the joyful, cheery.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't start Countdown to Christmas until like 2015. So, I mean, we're way off from when, I mean, there wasn't even Hallmark Channel at this time in 1997. And for a long time, I mean, you were on the pandemic episode, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan? Yeah. For a long time, for like between like 2004 and 2007, it was like the sci-fi channel. Like they had all these sci-fi movies and on Hallmark, and they had Star Trek: The Next Generation.
They need to get back to
Hallmark.
I want some sci-fi Hallmark movies. I probably would watch more Hallmark movies if they would do some sci-fi ones.
And I mean, at that point, you're talking they maybe did like 1 or 2 Christmas movies a year. Yeah. And then they started increasing it every year. And then Countdown to Christmas didn't really start until I think 2015. Yeah. And then it became this, phenomenon. Now we have over 40 movies a year.
Well,
for Christmas, just Christmas.
Just Christmas. Not only could you tell just because of the film quality and, kind of the, like you said, the darkness maybe of the Hallmark movies and mysteries, like theme kind of, it's a dark story anyway, but it still had that, Hallmark touch. But the amount of time this movie spent at church is also an indicator that it's a very old Hallmark movie.
I mean, this, when it first aired, was on the USA Network.
Oh,
yeah. Well, like I said, Hallmark Channel didn't even exist in 1997. But
they were basically a production company that made movies and put them out.
Yeah, elsewhere. They had the Hall of Fame and things like that. And
then this is aired on Hallmark movies and mysteries later.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. That is another sign too that there's way more in church than
more church, and you're going to have the moral of the story would highly, at least the Christmas story in the Christmas movies is attached to an epiphany type of moment in a church. Typically, that's a lot of what old Hallmark movies used to do. And it's funny because I love church, and I really pay special attention to like, okay, what are they saying? What is the pastor saying from the pulpit? What is, what is this message here? And man, I mean, he was preaching. He was preaching in this movie. And it was really touching and tender when the two of them reconciled at the end. Her nephew was the preacher. And I just thought that was really precious. Really precious.
Yeah. I mean, in this one, I would say that it's one of the Christmas Carol versions where even in her redemption, I would say it's still all about her.
Yeah.
She really only changes once she becomes kind of aware of her own death. She's not that like invested in Tiny Tim or in Cratchit or in any of these things. She stays pretty cold until the very end when she sees that she's going to die and that nobody's going to come to her funeral. And that's it. That's what makes her change.
But then that's okay because
it's a choice. It's fine.
Yeah. Because the change does actually happen. She's like, okay, what can I do for Tiny Tim? I may not be able to save myself at this point, but what can be done for him?
Because that was what she said, was like, even if there's nothing that I can do to save myself, I still want to help him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and
I think her coldness might have been partly her trying to still put up a front. I think it was getting to her, like when the ghost took her to see the Cratchits and the state they were in. I think it was getting to her, but she was still acting like she was cold. But it was affecting her somewhat.
When she sees those, like her money being carted out in bags.
Yes, that is the final thing that puts it over the edge for her.
She's like, oh
no. She's like, I gave my whole life to this,
Yeah. Oh man.
I thought it was also interesting that she has a cat named Mortimer. And the only other time that I've ever seen a Scrooge have a pet was in an animated version, probably from around the same time, when there was a Scrooge that had a dog named Debit. And I did that one with Mark Brown, and we were discussing, like, this seems a little bit weird that he would have a dog because Scrooge only cares about himself. So it seems kind of weird to have him have a pet that he has to take care of and actually spend money on, like for food and vet bills and stuff. Oh, it seems kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's fine, but it just doesn't seem in character for Scrooge to have a pet to care for.
Because sometimes they do Scrooge as this sort of winking, a little bit self-aware character, like your Michael Caine kind of does in Muppets, or that there's like a little bit of sarcasm. Certainly, what's his name? The musical one. I can't think all of a sudden, but anyway, that version is very winking kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of the actor for some reason, but anyway, they go to hell in that version. Scrooge.
Oh my word!
Yeah, he goes to hell.
I don't think I've seen it. It's not one.
Oh, you haven't done that one? I mean, I can't believe I can't think of it.
Oh my gosh, how funny!
But I don't remember anyone going.
Albert Feeney. It's Albert Feeney.
No, I don't think I've done that.
Yeah, and so Ghost of Christmas Future takes him to hell, and he's basically like, "This is what you're going to be facing."
Oh my word! Okay.
But it does have some pretty fun music. Thank you very much. I think, that's a way to play it, and a lot of versions do play it, kind of winking and whatever. But in the book, it's not that at all. Like there's no self-awareness on the part of Scrooge, and he's completely justified his life and how he's living, and that's what he tells nephew Fred. That let other people celebrate it however they way. Let me celebrate it in my way. And Fred says, "Well, you don't celebrate it. Then let me leave it alone then." And and I think this one actually captures the book version of Scrooge pretty well because she is ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And the book describes Scrooge as a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner.
Oh my goodness. There you go.
That does seem to fit her.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and actually, a lot of people hate the 2009 version with Jim Carrey, but I think that one also, the whole movie is very true to the book.
They almost basically used the script for that one.
And there's stuff in the book that's almost never in the movie versions that's in that 2009 version, like going to see the lighthouse keeper, flying over and seeing the people going out of Sabbath and talking about people that break the Sabbath and why is that more respectable than what I do. Anyway, so that whole conversation, you almost never have that in. Anyway, but he is definitely that clutching, covetous, kind of type in the Jim Carrey one. And in this one, I think she really is that. And she fits it really well.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny that she irons for money.
Right.
I don't know why that just cracked me up. It's like, is she ironing her dollar bills?
Yeah. I don't know if she had. I tried to find out if Cicely Tyson had dentures at this point, but I felt like she did. She was a little hard to understand sometimes.
I was thinking that too. Not the dentures thing, but I was like, is she holding her mouth shut more than she would on purpose? And I feel like she was slightly easier to understand at the end. So it might have just been a choice, like for the character.
Right. Probably was.
To me, it sounded like somebody that has dentures.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. One thing, speaking of dentures, how old do you think she was supposed to be? Because I was kind of confused because I assumed that she's like 80. And her backstory, like when they go to the past, assuming that this takes place in the same time period as it was made, 97, her backstory, I believe, takes place in the 60s and 70s. And she's an adult in the 70s. So she wouldn't be that much older in the 90s.
She was 73 when the movie came out.
Yeah, but I mean like her character. Like,
right, I'm just saying that as an actress, she was 73.
Yeah.
I think she was supposed to be a little bit younger than that.
I was just wondering if maybe they played up her looks as like her greed has aged her or something.
Yeah.
Because she didn't seem like she was the correct age for the time period for when it was supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She had an older look to her, but I kind of felt like so did her nephew. He was supposed to be a young man, young preacher, but I don't know, people in the 90s just kind of looked a little older. Like, don't you find that? Like, it just happened.
If we're going by who they cast for like teenagers on TV, then I guess this sort of makes sense because they always cast people in their like late 20s and 30s as teenagers, it seems, especially for like CW shows.
Yeah, true.
So maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. But that stood out to me because she seemed like she was maybe 20 in the 70s. So I was like, would she be like 40, 50 max? I don't know.
Huh. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think she was definitely playing younger, but I don't know about 40. I think she was supposed to be older than that.
Okay. Yeah, in her backstory, for a while, I was like, she seems like a really good person. Like, it doesn't seem like somebody who would turn into this evil miser. But then you had like the 1-2 punch of her breaking up with her. Was he a fiance at that point? I don't remember, but they broke up and he moved away because he had aspirations of getting a good job, like doing something good in the world, but he wanted her to quit her job that she had just gotten. So they broke up over that right before her brother died in Vietnam. So I was like, yeah, I suppose that could probably age and anger people to the point where they would kind of be a different person. But she seemed so different when she was a kid. Like she was nice, like a very kind person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's always the case with Christmas Carol. I mean, young
that's
Scrooge, true. Before he fears the world too much and breaks up with Belle, pretty much everything before that is pretty kind.
Though I think with the book, it's more of like supposed to be more of like a gradual change. Like over time, he gets more and more covetous and valuing money more than Belle.
Right.
But this one, it seemed like it I guess there was a little bit like getting the job with Maud Marley in this case. But then the 1-2 punch of the breakup and then her brother dying in Vietnam, I think, is what pushed her over the edge.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, this was a good one. I mean, after I watched this one, after I watched the other two, and I was like, oh, I remember the intention of the story now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember. So it was good. Yeah. It was definitely more faithful to the real story.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, besides Cicely Tyson, was there anybody that you recognized in this? Because I didn't really recognize pretty much anybody. There was a couple people that after I looked them up, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I know who they are. Maud Marley was Katherine Hellman, which she did the voice of Lizzie in Cars, Pixar's Cars. But I wouldn't have known what she looked like, of course.
I mean, I knew Katherine Hellman from Who's the Boss.
Okay.
She was the grandma in Who's the Boss.
And Who's the Boss and stuff like that. But I'm trying to think of where I had seen Michael Beach, who was the Reverend, who I believe was her nephew. But I'm not exactly...
I didn't think I knew who he was, and I'm still not entirely sure, but I know I've seen the movie Aquaman a couple of times, and he was Manta's father in that. So that was the only place that I knew that I would have known him from.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's... he's a really well-known actor, but I'm thinking there's some awesome 90s movie that I know him from, but I'm looking here, I'm kind of scrolling, nothing's jumping out at me, but he just was so recognizable.
Evidently he was on ER for a while, so that might be where I at least recognize him. But yeah, definitely Katherine Hellman. Recognize her, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of these people, I mean, you could tell like they've had careers, you know, they were definitely, I mean, he was on Soul Food. I think maybe I remember watching Soul Food, Waiting to Exhale, Touched by an Angel. I mean, there's definitely things I recognize him from, but.
Yeah, working actor, as you might say.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think most of the people in here there was a few that had like small IMDb pages, but I think most of these, like they had careers, even if I didn't really recognize them.
Yeah.
Like I know Julian Richings. I'm not sure that I know him, but I looked at his IMDb page. It was huge, and I recognized a bunch of titles, but I don't think I would have known who he was just by his name.
But yeah, it's a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, if you're looking for a good version of A Christmas Carol, this is the best one in that respect. But if you just want a good rom-com,
yes,
Boyfriends of Christmas Past has this one beat.
Well, thanks for having us on. This was fun to talk about these movies.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I wish that Hallmark would do more versions of stories, and I could make an excuse to like pick apart all the different ways that they're different. But it's like they don't really adapt a whole lot of things, which I kind of wish that they would, like they used to. Like my favorite version of Alice in Wonderland is from Hallmark, the 99 version. And they also did Alice in Wonderland back in the 50s. So they used to do this kind of thing, but they don't really anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they have some rom-com novels that they'll adapt, but the classics, you don't really see that much.
No.
Maybe they will once they run out of, like if they start getting tired of doing the same old thing every year, maybe they'll try and spice it up a bit by trying to do some other things. Have they ever done Nutcracker? Yeah. Nutcracker's another Christmas story. They should do Nutcracker.
I don't know.
It'd be kind of weird for a rom-com, though.
And Nutcracker is notoriously difficult to adapt to the screen. There have been so many terrible versions.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah. Yes. But anyway, thanks for having us.
Oh, this was so
Christmas
much fun. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah. This is a lot of fun. We'll maybe have to do this again sometime if we can think of another thing to do.
Yeah.
I use the excuse for like Christmas in July or doing the Christmas carols, but we don't have to make an excuse.
Right. We cover Christmas year round on Hallmarkies podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Love it.
Well, until next time, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you, Rachel?
Well, you can find both of us on Hallmarkies podcast and at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies podcast on social media. So check that out. And then also you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you check out on my blog, I have a whole Scrooge month section that I did way back in 2014, where I reviewed over 35 different versions of Christmas Carol. So that was pretty fun. So if you're interested in this topic, check that out.
You have to bring it back and add a few more that have made sense.
I know. Yeah, because it's been a while. So.
And what about you, Kari?
Yeah, and hey, definitely come find me at the Hallmarkies podcast. We do a lot of fun things over there if you're into Hallmark movies, and even if you're not, because sometimes we have bonus episodes of fun things. But then, on Instagram, come find me at Hallmark Comics.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. We will have to see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kari.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Every Version Ever. If you like what you've heard, make sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform or to the Every Version Ever YouTube channel. Make sure to follow my co-hosts as well. Any relevant links will be in the description for easy access. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.